All right, everybody, welcome. Good afternoon, good evening, or good morning, depending upon where in the world you're tuning in from today. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Interactive Multimedia Reporting, a Path Forward to Interoperable Data and Representation. This webinar is based upon the recent JDI published HIMSIM collaborative white paper titled Multi-Specialty Enterprise Imaging Workgroup Consensus on Interactive Multimedia Reporting, Current State and Road to Read the complete article HIMSIM community on sim.org. With us from across the enterprise are 8 of the white paper authors, including Dr. Jean-Pierre Bissonnette, Mr. Monif Eid, Dr. Les Folio, Dr. Morgan McBee, Dr. Anil Parwani, Dr. Christopher Roth, Dr. James Cheng, and Dr. David Vining. Today's fast-paced activity will provide you with the opportunity to engage in the IMR conversation with your peers. The authors will act as group breakout moderators and collect feedback anonymously to help envision future white papers and a path forward for IMR across the enterprise. The agenda includes a brief overview by Dr. Roth, followed by group breakouts. Upon returning to the large group room, groups will be asked to do a quick 90-second rapid recap. Afterwards, Dr. Vining will provide us with a glimpse into one IMR. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Dr. Christopher Roth, one of the HIMSIM Enterprise Imaging Community Co-Chairs and lead white paper author. Let's get started. Welcome, Dr. Roth.
Thank you, Nikki. And welcome, everybody. I want to say thank you for everybody being here. I think there's a lot that we're going to learn from each other over the next about the next hour or so. So we're going to talk about interactive multimedia reporting. And I'm going to start with a thought exercise, actually a few thought exercises. Read this paragraph briefly, and you can focus on those areas that are sort of outlined in red text. And I'll tell you for a minute why I'm interested in doing this. The point is, you can read a bunch of words about what a thing really looks like. You can try to sort of create a mental image in your head. Maybe it's accurate, maybe it's not. But when you see the picture, you very logically go, oh, yeah, of course I know what that is. And then the text that's associated with it is very supplementary and helpful. Same thing. Here's another thought exercise. So read this one. Feels a little bit like Jeopardy doing this. What's the question here? And then I'll give you one more, and it's actually a quote that may help you. You reading through this, maybe I know what this is, maybe I don't, but you see the picture, you sure as heck do. It's football. It's football season. That's why I chose this one right now. But as you see a football, you know what it is. You see the description, you feel maybe kind of, sort of, but you're not totally sure. Let's bring it a little closer to home for all of us in imaging informatics. So this is an actual report. I want you to imagine in your mind what the radiograph looks like. So this was a woman who was driving in a storm, and a tree fell on her car, crashed through her windshield, and one of the branches impaled her right thigh, sadly. The X-ray image conveys information that the report doesn't, right? There's an abnormal finding right here. It's got some serious size to it. It has an internal architecture to it. You know what it is because you read the story and you saw the imaging, the camera phone picture from the ED, which is in her note. I'm not going to show you that one. I'm going to show you the picture of when they took it out. But the point again is the report conveys information, the images don't, and the images convey information that the report doesn't. Let's bring it even closer to home. So there's a whole set of images associated with this report. I'm going to show you one of them. There's a lengthy description with lots of complicated words that comes from a neuroradiologist like me, and they're valuable. But you show that picture to a radiologist, you go to resident or a neurosurgeon, and they can already predict the report. This is a classic boards case of a glioblastoma, WHO grade 4. This patient's prognosis is grim. Again, the image, you can very quickly get to the necessary information you need around management. Keep going. This was a a dermatology note of a patient, and you can read through the HPI description of what this finding is, but it sort of drives home the same point, right? HIMSS and CIM have been working together for a long time to drive the awareness and also the tech development that images and text complement each other. If you just have this image, you don't know who it belongs to, who took it, when they took it. You can sort of come up with a description of the appearance. I'm no dermatologist. I couldn't come up with something as good as what they did in the clinic note. But you can get an idea for what it is you're dealing with. An ICD-10 code might be nice. Some associated symptoms might be nice. Tying image data like this to the electronic health record with textual information is important. And to me, IMR is the same use case, but in reverse. In IMR's case, I have textual information from a diagnostician or somebody who took a camera phone photo or something. And I'm putting it in the electronic health record in some way, but having the images right next to it would sure as heck be helpful. Nikki talked about this already. This was a genuinely collaborative paper where experts from 8 medical specialties talked about a number of different things. And I think it's highlighted by the fact that there are 4 different medical specialties, I think, on this call right now, and one person from the technical background leading the work groups, the breakout groups that we're going to have after this. If you're newer to imaging informatics, you might think, yeah, of course it makes sense to put images and text together. I do that in other parts of my life. It's not that simple, right? As we've learned in CIM for years, some specialties don't have consistent image storage or indexing. And if you don't have that, it's awfully hard to consistently incorporate images into your diagnostic report or your consult note or whatever it happens to be. Some parts of an interactive multimedia report are also best generated in the setting of structured data. If you just think about the image that we had before, and a diagnostician like me starts measuring this thing, okay, so it's pretty easy to get a mediolateral measurement. But if you're going to do structured data capture of the measurements for, let's say craniocaudal, top to bottom, would I use this one in the midline? Would I use that one? Would I use something that is kind of the longest dimension? And this really gets complicated, right? These measurements might feed into a graph or a table or something that would supplement a multimedia report. But if you don't have policy, if you don't have agreement on how you're going to capture these consistently over multiple studies, you really can get yourself in trouble and have people think, okay, this tumor is smaller because the measurements say they're smaller, but it's really the same or perhaps even bigger. So with that, I'm going to turn it over because some of this is going to come out in the breakout rooms. And I don't want to steal the thunder from there. I want to say thank you to Les Folio, who has the best Zoom background I've seen in a long time. You were invaluable to that work group being successful. I know you're going to talk about some of the successes that group has had since then and some of the ongoing work. Les, please take it away.
Thank you very much, Dr. Roth. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
This is, I have to say, those were great examples. I was sitting there thinking, what is a prolate spheroid? And then the football shows up. Great. This is a good place for us to take a quick poll. So think to yourself, take a moment to think, do you practice any type of multimedia reporting today in any specialty? Be open about it. Think about it. Okay. All right. So 42% are practicing some type of multimedia reporting. So that's good. And those of you unsure, maybe you'll change your mind one way or the other as we move on. So it's time now to break out into the group discussions, the breakout discussions. And as we begin, we encourage you to make the most time by engaging the conversation while remaining comfortable. This part, this will not be recorded, so You're encouraged to come off mute, turn on your video, engage in conversations. Today's discussions will focus on, of course, interactive multimedia reporting, opportunities and challenges. And in those groups, you'll be able to ask questions on what it means. And let's get started. While we wait to move in our rooms, take a moment to review these questions to help get the conversation started, and see you back here in about 20 minutes.
Welcome back, everyone.
Thanks. So should we start off then with group one for your summary? And thanks again for your engagement during the small work groups. I managed to jump into all of them several times.
Okay, thanks, Les. So our group was a fairly technical one. And again, I'm just reading some of the notes that I've taken and want to thank Jason, John D, Ben, and Alex for their contributions. So Jason raised the point about focusing on the technical aspects. We talked that the value of digital annotations is really great when we talk about transferring images from one discipline to another. So the technical challenges are raised to make sure that the information and the displays are accurate spatially, but also in terms of information consistency. And this raised questions about DICOM compliance, quote unquote, from the vendors and how to iron these out, and again, pointing out that the devil is in the details. We also touched base upon user variability and the need for education, and how much support or hand-holding is necessary to take users through these annotation tools, how to change their ways, and to embrace it eventually. We also alluded to buy-in, how to influence buy-in. I think the bottom line, as Alex pointed out, is that there's a demand by clinicians, and the information and the tools need to be useful. And perhaps in the United States, the idea of for-profit and billable actions is further motivation. So thanks everyone for your input.
Thanks for that, Dr. Bissonnette. Group two, would you like to describe your findings?
Thanks, Les, because you explained the IMAR at the beginning, and thanks, William and Kevin, for their contribution. The most topic we're focused on, we have discussed modalities as a source of information from different ologies, and how this will impact on the quality of the IMR. We discussed the big challenges, and everyone agreed it's interoperability, and integration. We have discussed how to view this report from different perspective or specialty. So the cardiologist will perceive it different of radiologist, as well the oncologist. We discussed the role of key images as well as the measurement, and how to add these images to the report to tell the story as a conclusion. And it's William and Kevin both, they agree that we need to focus on the conclusion. I have invited them, Liz, to our subgroup. Please, they have feel free. I told them we have a subgroup as a result of this white paper. Try to discuss the language and patient literacy and friendly, so they are welcome to join our weekly group. Also, we have discussed the wishing to have this IMR on the EMR side, so the referral physician can view and annotate this. One of the folks was suggesting and proposing AI to be interact with the IMR profile. Another topic was discussed, the infrastructure bandwidth impact, the firewall inside and the outside of the organization, if we want to extend this report. Also, we have discussed the perceiving this report from different specialty view, as oncologists, especially, and cardiologists. That's mainly what have been discussed.
Okay, thanks, Manif. Group three, what do you have for us?
Yeah, so I think we should rename our group David, because we had at least three Davids in our group. But so yeah, it was a great discussion. We kind of touched on a lot of different things. Some of the higher level things that we talked about would be obstacles to implementation, starting with, just skeptics, with physicians and administrators being skeptical about things that can slow down reporting and turnaround. But kind of some solution potentially to that is thinking about it from the perspective of a radiologist or other image generating specialist as being not just a generator of the IMR, but also a consumer of it to be able to help them track lesions or changes or look at the patient timeline over the timeline of the patient. Other things with lots of technical discussion about how these things are stored and the workflow involved with them. But one of the big obstacles that people saw was that we basically in radiology have only a couple vendors, and in healthcare in general there's a couple EHR vendors, with one in particular bigger than the others, and until they kind of really adopt these standards and make these things easier to implement, it's going to be very difficult for others to do it. And we talked about the need for killer use cases to drive adoption. So things like value-based healthcare with the use of imaging to improve outcomes. AI obviously came up, education, multidisciplinary conferences, and patients' ability to kind of participate better in their own healthcare. So thanks.
Love the killer apps or the killer use cases. That sums it up. Group 4, Anil.
Our group focused on, we started talking about the challenges, right? So that was really the bulk of the conversation. It was about why cannot we do this, right? What are the challenges? What are the barriers? So we focused on, if you look at the current state, we had clinicians who were practicing in private practice all the way to academic institutes, but the challenges were very similar, which is there is a lack of interoperability. I asked them about their pathologists and their EMRs and their lab information systems. There was a lot of challenges as to even get information across from different ologies. So if you're going to get to IMR, we need to at least have connectivity and interoperability interfaces where information is readily available. So we have obviously in the white paper described some of the challenges, but we've also described some success stories. But it was very radiology heavy conversation. I was the only pathologist in the room. But we talked about what they are doing at their institutes and their practices. What are the challenges? So we didn't even get to the AI part. We didn't even get to the things that when you have interactive media, where do you go next? So I think we have a lot of variability across users, physicians, IT techs, professionals in their perception of IMR. So I think as we think about programming and about future courses and opportunities, this is a huge opportunity where we can offer programming around the national conferences to look at these challenges and barriers more closely, not just from an academic institute's perspective, but also from private practices. So, and we've talked about that, in the past, but that was one of the things that struck me as I was listening to all these conversations today in our group. So a lot of insights, a lot of lessons learned, and a lot of challenges from the end user, right, from their perspective.
Oh, yes, Dr. Shang. I'm sorry. Go ahead. For some reason, I thought it was.
No problem, Wes. And the danger or the difficulty with going last is most of the themes have already been discussed, but just wanted to echo that we had a great group interaction. I would divide or list our recommendations across kind of the following themes. First of all, there was endorsement of the obvious value of IMR picture's worth 1,000 words, and an annotated picture, an annotated interactive report has an even higher value. But just that statement then needs to underscore that there needs to still be a driver, that there should be a guide as to how that how IMR will actually provide value. Morgan actually used the word use cases. That came up in our group too. Use cases for both the clinician, and there are multiple recipients of information. For example, in the radiation oncology space, the radiologist is producing a report that the radiation oncologist is going to consume, and also for the patient. Another theme is that it does need to be recognized that there's extra work on the part of the clinician that will somehow need to be compensated for, not necessarily monetarily, but that could also be part of it, but at least acknowledged and recognized. There is also a need to approach this from a business use case side, and that is true ROI, financial value. So how financially will this impact the practice, both on the producer side as well as the consumer side? One of our participants talked about security. If you have an IMR-enabled report with hyperlinks, how do you maintain the credentials as you go from one link to the next as you're reviewing a report? An interesting concept came up, and that is that peer pressure may actually drive some of this. That is, setting a standard at the professional society level may ultimately help move this environment forward. And then we finished up with a quick survey of standards, and the call was for standards that would both support the capture and the holding of IMR reports through EHRs, because they really don't natively do it right now, and the real goal would be to make it a seamless experience for the clinician and the patient. And then a standardized framework for, if you will, the annotation process and the other components of IMR that can be subscribed to by the vendors. So again, thank you for my group and the very active discussion that we had.
Thanks, Dr. Shang. You were the one that helped clarify my the way I summarize the multimedia report. Do you want to say it again from Arthur C. Clarke?
Yeah, Arthur C. Clarke has a great quote. He said, technology perfectly applied is indistinguishable from magic. And that's what we're trying to do.
Idea, the society level approach, I hadn't thought about that. I guess that's why we're doing this. And I think, and the security, which was very important, by James.
Welcome, Dr. Vining.
Hello, so thank you. I'm David Vining. I'm a radiologist at MD Anderson Cancer Center, but I also have a small startup company that grew out of the work that I did at Anderson, and even some years before that. So as a disclosure, I do have this small startup company, and then I also, back in the 90s, I created something called virtual colonoscopy. So I get royalties for that. So I'm going to give you a glimpse, at least in the work that I've done to create a multimedia reporting system. We call it Vision, and it's our vision for the future to be able to integrate information across the medical record to better tell a patient's story. The way our system works is like this. We simply capture an image, and as we talk about the findings in that image, we attach our voice to that image. Then we apply natural language processing to extract metadata to tag that image with anatomy, pathology, and common data elements. And then finally, we link this information in timelines. And so from a single view of a patient, it's a holistic view, we can see the entire history of a patient, like when you broke your leg at age 3, or might have had a pulmonary nodule at age 50, or a brain infarct at age 90. So in this single view, you can access the entire history. And when you click on a site of disease, we give you that in a timeline. But in the process of developing this, we've aimed for speed and interoperability, because I realized early in my profession, nobody's going to pull down a lot of menus to label things. It has to fit in the natural workflow. So some of the major innovations that we've had is we've built an API interface to our PACS system. So as we make measurements in PACS, we capture both the images and that imaging metadata and import that directly into the reporting process. Natural language processing was also a huge part to creating a much faster process. so that as I dictate, I am automatically and unobtrusively in the background generating structured data like common data elements. And then finally, we've used web services to be able to import data from our medical record, such as laboratory data, pathology results, and even treatment information to put that into these timelines. But I'd like to really focus where I think some of the benefits of interactive multimedia reporting lie in the future. And these are the 5 ones, but there are many more that I've come across. One is efficient data management. A typical radiology report might have half a dozen findings, but in our case, we're building reports that have 30, 40, 50 sites of disease, a lot of information. And especially as we start to look at artificial intelligence that can analyze the entire disease burden within a patient, we need more efficient ways to manage that. So within our reporting system, we can click on a finding and then open up or pop up a page that shows you more explicit details about that finding. So we can have both a patient facing version of the report as well as a more detailed report. And much like the internet, you can drive into more detail as you wish. And then that information within the database can be exported to whoever needs that data and in whatever format. I think by connecting this information in timelines, we can start to identify trends that we wouldn't necessarily see otherwise. Like looking for the history of a pulmonary nodule, where we have to look in each and every of these, one of these imaging exams is tedious and time consuming. No one really does it. There's a lot of untapped potential if we can connect all this data. But like I said earlier, there's also a lot of data. And so by being able to manipulate that data, filtering it and analyzing it, we can look for, say, all the pulmonary nodules and then identify the outlier where most of those nodules have been stable for a long period of time. And there's the outlier that is increasing over time. I think the third thing is we look at this is to take some lessons from medical education where multimedia both enhances comprehension as well as retention of information. The consistency and continuity for guiding towards precise or precision medicine, I think, cannot be underscored enough. This is an actual case from my hospital where a patient undergoes a biopsy and the interventional guy calls it a right vaginal cuff lesion. The pathologist calls it something else. They rebiopsy it at something else, and it's really a left vaginal fornix metastasis. So by connecting this multimedia information together, we would hope to be able to guide and inform towards making the correct diagnosis. And then finally, I think by connecting this information and now integrating treatment information and laboratory data, we can start to derive medical outcomes. And that's going to be very important and essential for pay for performance. So with this system, we can now answer questions like what percentage of patients with a disease like liver metastases treated with a certain regimen like Avastin have responded to therapy, and we can give you that information. So I think the future for interactive multimedia reporting is bright. There is a lot of unrealized potential, and I welcome all of these participants as we hope to drive this going forward. Thank you very much.
Thanks, David. Another outstanding presentation. I've always been fascinated with your developments with that. Okay, and we'll finish on time here. Thanks everyone for your help, and those of you moderating or leading up these work groups. I tapped into a lot of the discussions. It was great to hear. I personally feel that interactive multimedia reporting is here to stay. I think a lot of you do also, and I encourage you to become involved if you're not already. I'd like to thank all the presenters, David and all the group leaders for your contributions. And again, thank David Kwan and Elliot Silver and some of you on this group for the acceptance of the interactive multimedia reporting integrated health exchange profile. It was ranked #1, and there's some LinkedIn notes about it that some of you have seen. But thanks again, everybody.
All right, everybody, thank you once again for joining us today. Be sure to, join us again about 2 weeks. We'll be continuing this conversation as well as diving into some other topics such as the DM and just the HIMSIM work group and things that are going on in general. So please join us on October 21st for that. And thank you so much and have a great day. If you have any interest in being a part of the IMR work group, please feel free to send Dr. Folio, Dr. Roth, myself, or any of the moderators a quick email, and we will get you included into those calls. So thank you again and have a great day.